You're listening to the Fierce Valley Podcast, episode 100. Is weight loss a mindset issue? Let's do it.
Perfect.
I'm Victoria Wellesby, TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and fat activist. I have transformed my life from hating my body with desperately low self-esteem to being a courageous and confident, fierce fatty who loves every inch of this jelly. Society teaches us living in a fat body is bad, but what if we spent less time, money, and energy on the pursuit of thinness and instead focused on the things that actually matter, like if pineapple on pizza should be outlawed, or if the mullet was the greatest haircut of the 20th century. So, how do you stop negative beliefs about your fat body controlling your life? It's the Fierce Fatty Podcast. Let's begin. Hello, fatty. Welcome to episode 100. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I've done this 100 times. This is weird. 100 times I've done this. Made a podcast episode. Wow. Well, thank you for listening to them. Hey, I didn't know when I first started making the podcast 2 years ago that anyone would be interested in listening. Apart from my mum or something. Who am I kidding? My mum doesn't even listen. But, I think a lot of people like it. They like the show, right? Which is cool. So thank you. If you're one of the people, or if this is your first episode, hello, welcome. Come on in for the fun times. I really appreciate you being a listener. And if you've not subscribed on whatever podcast platform that you have done, go ahead. Why don't you do it? A little gift to me. 100th episode. Maybe I'll get a couple of new subscribers. Dreams come true. Yes. So, today's episode, we're going to be talking about a few things. So, first thing is weight loss is a mindset issue. Also, answering a few questions around accepting, will you ever accept yourself as plus size or fat? How do we set boundaries without being mean? And a question from a hairdresser who has to listen to 200 plus clients talking about weight loss, what to do with that. So, hey, do you know what? I bought something and I thought you might be interested. Totally not fatty related. Just for all of my listeners out there who are fans of pimple popping or, I don't know, gross videos or earwax removal or anything like that, I got myself this camera. There's an official name, like orthoscope or something. But anyway, it's this camera that goes into your ear canal, so you can look inside your ear canal. And it doesn't stop there. Obviously, it's a camera. I was like, oh, well, I can go in and look at my ear, because you know why? I wanted to look inside my ear because I've got eczema, right? And where my eczema is the most annoying is I get it in my ear canal. It's so fucking annoying. It makes me want to just scratch my ears a lot. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to see all this. I'm going to go and see all the eczema in my ear, and it's going to be so satisfying. And then they've got little tools, and it's you can then take out all of the earwax. My ears are so fucking boring. They're just a bit red. There's no earwax. There's nothing. It's just, so boring. And so I had to then take the camera and then just look at every single piece of my body, because it's it's magnified, right? And so, of course, I was looking at my pubes. Of course, I was looking at my bum hole. Of course, it's so interesting. And my whole body is just so, for anything interesting like that, I don't have it. I don't get ingrown hairs. I don't get weird things I don't know, one of my exes had this little hole on his back. It was this tiny little hole, size of a small thing. I was going to say a pinhead, but I think a lot of people think of a pinhead as a different thing. Anyway, this little hole in his back, and like once every 2 months, it would have enough time to collect, like stuff, and then I would clean it out, and it was just the highlight of our relationship, really. It was so much fun. And that's why I'm on the dating apps right now, is I need to find a romantic partner so I can look at their face and see if I can get any stuff, look in their hair, see if they've got lice, look in their ear holes so I can like get the stuff out, the earwax out. So that's the only reason why I want a romantic partner, basically just to to groom them, which probably not fun for them. But, their happiness in this matter is of no coincidence to me. I will do it regardless. My ex, actually the one with the little hole, he would let me also look at his face, but he would give me a time limit. He'd say, you're only allowed 5 minutes. Because if it was up to me, I'd be like sitting there staring at his face, like pulling out random hairs and stuff. So he caught on and was like, you've only got 5 minutes. But sometimes he liked it. It's not like he hated it all the time. Anyway, I'm making myself sound like a star romantic partner. I would like that if my partner were to do that, but they'd be disappointed because I don't have anything. The most interesting thing is sometimes, like once every 6 months, I might get a really long hair on my face. And that's just like, oh my God, get the camera out. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, let's have a look at this. Oh, let's take your time pulling it out. Oh, Anyway, I feel sorry for me for my terrible life. Having nothing on my skin. Yeah, so sad for me. Anyway, so that I'm in the online business world, obviously, because I have a business and it's online, and I talk to people virtually and all that type of jazz. And so I've spoken in other episodes about how the online business world and business and self-help in general is so fucking fat phobic. And I wanted to talk about this idea of weight loss being a mindset issue after reading this article that came out in The Guardian today. Was it today? Well, I read it today, but yeah, it came out today or yesterday. Anyway, talking about this one person who is like one of the leaders in the life coaching world. And they get on my fucking floppy tits. I tell you, they get on my tits. And the reason is that they're one of these people who says, weight loss is just a mindset issue. Weight on your body is a manifestation of stuff that you've not worked out in your mind yet. And reading this takedown on her, not in regards to diet stuff in The Guardian, but other stuff, it was just satisfying. I'll link to the article, but the kind of tagline is, Brooke Castillo, the quote queen of life coaching, has convinced her fans they can find meaning and money in their field, but is she selling them an unattainable fantasy? Basically, the article is like, you can train to be a life coach with her life coaching school for 15 grand, but most people don't make money from it because most people don't make money from it because they're probably not teaching people how to get clients, and they are probably why I think a lot of people in business in general and online business world fail is because they realize that they have to not only do the stuff that they want to do, but stuff which is not maybe inside their personality type. And it's just not who they are, right? And so a lot of the stuff that you have to do as an online business owner, or a business owner generally, is a lot of promotion and marketing and selling and all that type of stuff. And some people just don't have that personality. And I think a lot of times people get sucked into seeing those with businesses and say, oh yeah, I'd love to help people, and get told by someone selling a life coach certification, yeah, you can be a life coach, and I've made $10 million, which is, I think, Brooke Castillo's turnover last year. I've made $10 million, and so you'll be able to make $1 million or whatever. And these are people who are so kind and lovely and want to help others. And then they finish their certification and they're like, oh, what? Well, where are the clients? And they realize they have to build a whole blooming brand, which takes time. And some people are not into that, and they just want to coach and not do the other side of things. Anyway, the article doesn't mention that, but they talk about how they've got this. She's got a model, a method, or something, which is all about how basically you're at fault for whatever the circumstances are in your life, which is, I mean, for some things I can understand, like, but it's very black and white thinking, and it got finally bit her, Brooke Castillo, in the bum last summer. So let me read some excerpts. So this Brooke Castillo is the CEO of a life coaching school business type of thing. Okay, so and I'm going to talk about a little bit about the diet thing too. So in the early 2000s, so this is a quote from The Guardian, link in episode, show notes, fiercefatty.com/100 for episode 100. Oh my God. Or if you forget the number of the episode, it's just fiercefatty.com/podcast. It's probably in the show notes anyway. Anyway. Okay, so, quote, in the early 2000s, she saw a trim life coach, she is Brooke Castillo, named Martha Beck on the Oprah Winfrey Show, who specialized in working with overscheduled women. Inspired, Castillo enrolled in Beck's 3-day coaching certification program and then began marketing herself as a weight loss coach. Don't you just love it? Like, just because, so Brooke Castillo is a thin white woman, obviously. And don't you just love it how she just, she did a 3-day coaching certification, and now she is a weight loss coach, and presumably her prior experience of being a weight loss coach is genetics of being born with a straight size body. Anyway, so continuing, she visualized her ideal client, a woman standing in her kitchen at 2 a.m. eating out of the fridge. Castillo taught that losing weight was more about mindset than diet or exercise. If her clients got in touch with the emotions that spurred them to overeat, she told them the pounds would melt away. Oh, really? And what evidence have you got to back that up there, Brooke? Huh? None. Ain't no evidence. No evidence. It's just, this whole kind of the online business world, the business world, self-help, all of that type of stuff is so fucking fat phobic. It's just, it just gets on my tits so badly, where I'm just like, yeah, I'd love to, learn how to cope with different situations. And, maybe I've just got kind of, minor life issues where I'd love to know how to cope with stress a little bit better, but it's not anything that's so tough to deal with that I would need to go to my therapist about. I'll leave my therapist to deal with how to deal with my DMs that I get. That's all I talk to my therapist about. Not anymore though, because my VA's doing my DMs. And so you think, oh yeah, why don't I just read this book on some good stuff. I just bought a book at the I was in a group and at the end of this, I'm in this group program about I mentioned it to you before. What's her face? Southern US woman, had a couple of talks, and her name is escaping me. Why is it? Brené Brown. So I did a Brené Brown course, and at the end the facilitator said, oh hey, why don't you check out this book? And so the book is The Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook, a proven way to accept yourself, build inner strength and thrive. And so I was like, cool, written by a couple of PhDs, and it's all about self-compassion, right? I love all learning all about that stuff. And so the self-compassion in our bodies is what I went to. Number 85. Went to number 85. Okay, page 85. See what we're going to say about self-compassion in our bodies. And basically, it's stop being such a fat fuck. I'm like, what? Hang on a minute. This is meant to be self-compassion. Yeah, and it's basically like, oh, you're so greedy, you just eat shit, and like, it's so disappointing. Yeah. It's just so disappointing, yeah, because this is like, the rest of it is, it's self-compassion. That's same with that Brené Brown course. It was like, oh, everyone's so fat, and what was the word she said? She said something like, we're the most over-medicated and over-eating or something population in history, and this goes to show that that we don't have a lot of self-compassion. And it was like, come on now, that self-compassion, compassion, shame. You're shaming people. You're shaming people. How are you meant to help people be self-compassionate when you're like, listen up here, you fat loser, How are you meant to breed self-compassion? Listen, just be more compassionate, and you won't be so fat. Anyway, and so let's go on about like this blaming type of thing. So they're talking about in this article about people not happy with the results of the program or whatever. So one of the people is called Olivia. So, quote, when Olivia complained to customer service, she was met with a reply straight out of the LCS playbook. So LCS is the name of the coaching program school. So it's Life Coach School. So LCS playbook. The problem was just in her thoughts, which is a very convenient, right? Because it means that they can never be wrong, she said. Sarah Foots, who was an LCS contract employee for 2 years and has appeared on Castillo's podcast, told me she met with similar pushback when she complained about being asked to work extra hours without additional pay or receiving inadequate training. They would tell us to ask, how is this perfect for me? She said. It's using the tools they teach us about changing our thoughts to make a crappy situation feel better. It keeps us quiet. Blatt occasionally chafed against the LCS worldview. Was it true that all circumstances were neutral and that her thoughts were the source of all her problems? What about her abusive childhood? What about the time that she'd been sexually assaulted? Was that a neutral circumstance? But her coaches helped convince her that it was exactly these kinds of thoughts that were undermining her progress. Interesting. Yeah, so what they teach, and is what a lot of these programs teach, is every situation in the world is neutral. And so where they got up, what they got caught up in is, I'm going to read in a little bit, was the great awakening of white people last summer, one of the faux great awakening of white people last summer around George Floyd's murder and the BLM protests, where white people were like, oh shit, it turns out I'm a big racist, and people did a lot of their, performative activism. And so Brooke Castillo didn't do even the performative activism, because her belief, and I believe a lot of people in this side of the coaching world, is that any situation is neutral, even racism. And so what they were saying is it's a neutral experience. If you experience racism, it's neutral. And the way that you think is what's going to mean that you're going to deal with racism, is the way that you think, versus the idea that we shouldn't live in an racist society and it's not a neutral event, it's a negative event. Anyway, so quote from this article. Then, last spring, after George Floyd was murdered and businesses scrambled to prove their anti-racist bona fides, LCS was conspicuously silent. Castillo's staff pushed her to issue a statement, or at least a Facebook post, decrying racism and voicing support for their black members, but she refused. Instead, on the 1st of June, LCS published a vague Instagram text post saying, "Love is always the answer." That seemed like an attempt to sidestep the national reckoning on race. It had the exact opposite effect. LCS social media was flooded with furious comments on the internal Slack channel. Coaches called Castillo out. The school was inundated with cancellations and demands for refunds. So basically, it's kind of this idea of blaming people for their life situations is a part of that. I'm just exhausted by it. Part of that, victim blaming. It's tied in with racism. It's tied in with sexism and classism and fat phobia and ableism. It's kind of like, every situation is neutral, and it is your fault if you have a result that you don't want. It's not the fault that you are, live in a racist society that says that murders people of color, black indigenous people of color. It's not this sexist society. It's not this fat phobic society. We do have control over certain aspects of our lives for sure, right? But it's so complicated. It's kind of like that attitude of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, just get on with it, and if you work hard, then you'll succeed. And that is not true for the vast majority of people. It's more likely if you're born rich, if you're born white, if you're born thin, if you're born able-bodied, then you'll succeed. And if you've not got success, it's because you haven't thought the right way about it. And a big part of this is the idea that if you have a bigger body, then it's because you have a mindset issue. So is weight loss a mindset issue? Now, this was my big belief, that when I was in diet culture, I thought that I was fat because there was something wrong with my brain, and there was something wrong with the way that I thought. And that's why I really wanted to go into therapy when I did, is because I wanted to get into therapy. I wanted to go to therapy so that I could finally be thin. So I could fix what was broken with my brain. I use fix in big quotations and broken in big quotations, because it was my own thoughts and beliefs that was making me fat, is what I deeply believed. And there was something wrong with me. I had some type of personality flaw. I was greedy. I was out of control. And that's why I was fat. By the way, you can't think yourself thin. So many people think you can, though, but you can't. You can't think yourself thin. And that's why companies like, I'm not going to say their name because I don't want them to trigger you getting ads or me getting ads, but NOOM, you know what I'm talking about, and WW. Hopefully that's not going to trigger ads coming up. That's why those companies NOOM and WW are doing so well recently. And I'm just going to say NOOM. I'm just going to call it N. So N is only a few years old, right? It's only a few years old, but it's so well established and has made its founders millions of dollars because they talk about psychology. They talk about mindset. And it's all based on bullshit. There's none of that. And even if there was any of that, I think there's like a teeny tiny little bit like here's a little article on mindset of how to lose weight. Think you can lose weight, that's basically it. But it's not. It's just another diet. So there's no psychology to learn how to lose weight because Diets don't work. There's no way to mindset magic your way into weight loss. So with N, it's a straight up diet. When you, if you've not experienced it before, basically, not that I have, but learning from others about what it is you get the app or the website, whatever, you log in, you pay your $250 for a year, and you then put in your height and weight. BMI. Oh, such cutting edge technology. Oh, what's that? It's 200 years old and created by a mathematician, not by a doctor, and was never meant to use to measure health. Okay, all right, okay, cutting edge. Okay, we've got cutting edge. So you find out what your BMI is, and then you find out what your weight should be. It's not about weight. Apparently, this is not about weight. It's about being healthy. It's about psychology. And then it asks you, how quickly do you want to starve yourself? And so you can be a rabbit or a tortoise, and there's something else in the middle. Can't remember what it is. And so say if you choose the rabbit, skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear a mention of calories. Skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear a mention of calories. Choosing if you want to do it fast, then you'll be given a diet of 1,200 calories a day. Strange. Okay, so where's the psychology coming in? Maybe they're talking about psychology because you get to choose if you're a rabbit or, a hare or a tortoise. Is that the psychology they're talking about? And the thing is, they say, we're not a diet. We're not a diet. We let you eat any food that you want. Sure, yep. They let you eat any food that you want. But that's not before categorizing the food as a red, yellow, or green food and telling you that you shouldn't eat too many of the red foods. And if you did, say if you did eat what anything that you wanted, you'd be done with your calories by the time you brushed your teeth in your morning, because the toothpaste is going to be too many calories, right? So yeah, technically you're going to eat what you want, but you're going to have nothing and then be like, oh, well, I've reached my calorie limit for the day. And remember what I said about that many calories a few episodes ago when I talked about the Minnesota starvation experiment and the Warsaw ghetto study about what happens to the human body on that many calories. But no, they're cutting edge. This is all about psychology. Do you see any psychology in that stuff apart from fucking up your psychology? There isn't. It's just a marketing trick, and it gets a lot of those people who are like, oh no, I'm not into diets. Oh, I'm into intuitive eating. Oh, but they're still in diet culture. They don't know, and who blame their failure to be thin on their brain, on the way that they're thinking, and they sign up for these fucking things which are on every podcast advert. I'm trying to have a sleep and fall asleep to murder podcasts and not listen to adverts about this magical weight loss app. Oh, it's so annoying. Leave me in peace with my murder shows. God. Yeah. And then reading about the other things, I went and did some research about what is it that people say, like, how do you lose weight by changing your mindset? And so I went and read some articles in incognito mode. Not that that's going to not stop me getting now loads of ads for fucking stupid ad diets. Anyway, and the stuff was so eye-rolly. It was literally like, just think you can get thin and you will get thin. Just think positive thoughts. One said that science has spoken. Those who don't like their bodies don't exercise as much. And so that's why they are fat. So to lose weight, you should love your body. Huh? So what now? So they're saying you're fat because you hate yourself. And presumably you hate yourself because you're fat. So stop hating yourself, and the side effect will be that you'll become thin. This is what they're talking about with, change your mindset and become thin. I mean, I hope I wonder if someone has taken that advice and is like, okay, shit, well, I want to get thin, so I'm going to learn to love myself. And then they fall into body positivity, fat positivity, health at every size, intuitive eating, and then realize, oh my God, what a load of bullshit. So yeah, I kind of like that advice. I like that advice of go and try and learn to love your body, because it's going to help you. It's not going to make you get thin, right? Because that's not how human bodies work. But it's just... Hi, Rolly. Yeah, so changing your mindset is not going to make you thin, because there's no way to get thin. I'm sorry. Not for the vast majority of people, as you know. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this question, which is, will I ever truly accept myself as fat? Will I ever truly accept myself as fat? And will I ever stop longing to be thin? Because I think a lot of people, they're like, okay, well, I'm fat. Okay, well, I've accepted fatness, but I've accepted the idea that I can't lose weight. But will I ever stop longing and looking back at the days when I was thinner and being like, oh my God, that's when my life was better. Oh my God, that's when I was able to move more. Oh my God, that's when I was getting cunnilingus every single night of the week. Looking back at those times and being like, oh, it was great. My life was better because I was thinner. And to answer this is super, super duper complex. And the reason why it's super duper complex is because we live in a world that's not built for bigger bodies. It's not built for a lot of straight size bodies. And so the bigger your body, the less safe the world is for you. So it's a legitimate thing to say life was easier when I was thinner, because life was probably easier. You probably had more stores that you could shop in. You could probably fit in more chairs. You could probably go to the fairground and go on the roller coaster. You probably had more people who will be open to dating you. Literally, it is true. It's not something that you're imagining it. And obviously, like, say if you're straight sized and you just put on a few pounds and you're like, oh my God, life was so much easier when I was 5 pounds smaller. I mean, is it, I would say, I'd question that. Is that a perception, or is that true? But, it is. If, a straight sized person versus a fat person versus as well, someone who is higher on the fat spectrum. A smaller fat person versus an infini fat person, their experience of the world is going to be totally different, and it's going to be so much harder for the infini fat person. And so, yeah, I get it. I get looking back and saying, I wish I was thinner. So that thought can change. By the way, that thought can change. So for someone like me, I can say, yeah, life was easier when I could just go to the mall and find a few stores where I could find clothes. Life was easier. But I know, looking back on my body when it was smaller and my life when it was smaller, and saying, and romanticizing it, even if it was better legitimately, is not helpful for me, because I know that there is really no way for me to be that size again. And so is that continued thought helping me in that body acceptance journey? Probably not. But a lot of the times those thoughts just come up, when you have those annoying thoughts popping up. The more that you're surrounded by fat positivity, body positivity, health at every size, intuitive eating, all of that good stuff, the more that you'll begin to see the joy in your current body, and seeing all of the lovely benefits of being a part of the fat community. And before you get there, it's okay to be having those uncomfortable feelings. It's okay. You don't need to feel guilty that you're thinking like that, because shit, most people are thinking like that, right? Thinking, I wish I was thinner. That's a very, very common thought. And so what can you do in the moment right now to embrace the suck, is what I like to say. During the pandemic, I was in a group coaching thing for, learning how to survive mentally the pandemic. And the big thing that I took away from that is I came up with the phrase embrace the suck. And I just put it everywhere, because it was kind of like, we're stuck in the pandemic. There's nothing we can do. I can't leave my house. It sucks. It just sucks. And there's nothing I can do. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to just wallow in my own self-pity. And embrace it, embrace that it's shit right now, and not try to see a silver lining, and not be like, oh, well, it's going to be temporary. No, sit in it and be like, my life is shit right now. And that's okay. I don't have to immediately try and get out of this feeling of my life is shit right now, And you might, after embracing the suck in a bit for a while, you might be like, you know what, I'm feeling a little bit better now. I'm gonna see if there is anything that I can do to help myself. And there might not be, and then you'd be like, well, back in the suck, and that's fine too. So even though the thought of life is easier if I was smaller is legitimate, is there anything you can do to learn to manage that thought? Is there anything that you can do when that thought comes up that comforts yourself? And is there anything that you can do to make yourself feel more comfortable? Because especially if you've put on weight, sometimes you can feel your body, you can notice your body, you can notice, I notice there's a new roll on my back, and just noticing it makes me go, some people might say that. And so if you then decide, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm feeling uncomfortable in my body, and it's bringing up these feelings of I wish I was thinner. What can you do to make yourself feel more comfortable? Could it be as simple as wearing looser clothes, not wearing a bra for the day, not wearing underwear, and just letting your flappy bits hang loose? Because sometimes just the feeling of your body, that can be triggering. So what can you do to help yourself with that? So to the question, will I ever stop wishing that I was thin? If you're doing the work, if you are working to unlearn fat phobia, then there's absolutely hope for you to not be consumed by that thought. Or, that thought coming up, and instead of being so distressing, being able to manage it and being able to take it for what it is. And, if a thought like that for me came up, I would say, oh, okay, this is interesting. Why am I thinking like this? Is it because I just watched 10 hours of Love Island where there is only normative bodies in bikinis? Yes, I think that's maybe what it is. Is it because I spent time with my fat phobic sister-in-law who is always talking about how horrible and fat and ugly she is when she's straight-sized? Yes, it could be that. And then, okay, how can I protect myself? How can I look after my mental health right now? Versus, oh God, maybe I should try and become thin, or whatever it is. Yes. Okay, so let's move on to a couple of other questions. And I'm actually, there's a couple of questions here, and then there's a third question, and they're all kind of similar. So first is, how do we set boundaries without being mean or offending our friends and family? Next, how can I set boundaries and talk about my journey towards body neutrality without causing others to feel shame about their own process? And then I want to read this other final one from a hairdresser who says, I am having a hard time with two things. One, every time I call my mum, at least once she brings up losing weight or the fact that I'm going to get diabetes. She has diabetes and has, since I was a child, talked about how I don't want to end up like her. But I'm sick and tired of hearing it every time I talk with her. Number two, I'm a hairdresser, and every day I hear people talking about diets and losing weight. I think it is hurting my mental health, but I can't magically make 200 plus clients stop talking about it. Also, my boss has gained weight in the shutdowns we had in 2020, and multiple times a day talks about how she was straight sized and now she is still straight sized. They're saying the sizes here, but they've gone from straight sized to straight sized, a higher straight sized, and how she needs to lose the weight. I'm fat and okay with it, but so exhausted about hearing about losing weight and dieting and diabetes left, right, and center in my life, and I don't know how to get away from it without changing careers when I like my career. Yes. Yeah, why should you have to change your career when you like your career because of fucking fat phobes? No, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. And I'm so sorry that you're experiencing that and experiencing that with your mum. And these are excellent questions about how to, basically what it is set boundaries. And I want to share something with you, which is something that's inside I've got a mini course called Boundary Boss. Boundary Boss it's under $50, and so if you are struggling with this stuff, Boundary Boss has got like loads of resources about how to do this. But let me give you one of the things that I teach inside Boundary Boss, which is when it comes to boundaries, using the jab technique, which is something that I came from my brain. So the jab technique, so the JABB stands for something. Each word stands for something. So the first one is judge. Judge whether it is safe to set the boundary. So when I say whether it's safe, I want you to recognize that there are different power dynamics at play in different relationships. So if you've got a relationship with just, I don't know, your sister, the power dynamic there could be pretty equal. But maybe, say, if you're living in your sister's house because you lost your job and you're not paying any rent, and if you had a confrontation with your sister, she could throw you out and you could be homeless. Then the power dynamic is different. Or say with your boss who's talking about weight. Is it safe for you to say to your boss, hey, motherfucker, stop that shit? Or would your boss fire you? Sometimes, we have different relationships with our bosses. So I don't know the answer to that, right? And if you're living with your sister might be a very reasonable and kind person, or maybe not. And so the first thing is to judge. Is it safe for me to set this boundary? Okay, so A stands for action. And so action is actually going and setting the boundary. And so when we say going and setting the boundary, what that can look like can be 1,000 different things. And with the hairdresser, are we going to be setting boundaries with 200 clients? Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe there is a way to protect yourself that is different from setting a boundary. And it could be a boundary that you create for yourself versus a boundary you create for them. And so let me just go through these things. And so action is the A. So judge, action, brace, because they will forget about the boundary. Not will, but pretty much likely. So brace for them to say, you've said, hey, can you not talk about that? And they're going to say, oh yeah, of course. And then 10 minutes later, they're going to be like, hey, let me rub some celery into my eyeballs because I'm going to lose weight. And so then you've braced for the fact that they're going to do that. And then you are going to remind them of the boundary. And then the final B is bottom line. Like if they keep not respecting your boundaries? What is your bottom line? When are you going to walk away? What are you going to put in place to protect your mental health? So that's a jab technique. But with each of these things here, we need to know how to say it, right? So with boundaries, without being mean or offending others, the idea is to make it about you, right? It's about you. It's not about them. And so when it is safe, when you do want to set a boundary with someone because you love them, you respect them, and you want a good relationship with them, you will say, hey, I'm wondering if you can help me with something. And they will say, yes, I would love to. And you will say, I'm working on learning to love and accept my body right now. I'm actually doing a course about it, or I'm actually reading a book about it, or whatever. And something that I discovered is that what is really triggering for me is when I start talking about diets. When I start talking about diets, I notice the next day or whatever, I will have negative body thoughts. And I realize as well that kind of, when others are talking about that type of stuff too, it kind of doesn't make me feel good either. So I'm wondering, could you avoid talking about diets or whatever it is while I'm around? And they'll probably be like, yeah, cool, no big deal. Tell me some more. Because you're not going in there saying, listen up, you piece of shit. You've ruined my life because you talk about diets all day long and I hate you. You're saying, hey, I'm doing something, it's about me and it's about how I'm triggered. Is there a way that we can avoid this? And it's more about you than it is about them. Now that's one technique. You can do anything you like. You can go in and you can say, listen up, I had enough of your bullshit, or make a joke, or, say something else. But that is my favorite kind of one-liner of, hey, can you help me with something, that gets people's defenses down. Now with our hairdresser, I mean, it said you say you think it's hurting your mental health. I could imagine that it is absolutely hurting your mental health. To 24, the hours of that you're working. So you say 200 plus clients. I would really, and then you finish with a client, and then your boss, who is straight sized, is like, oh, I'm so fat. And then you're talking to your mum. And then your mum is like, oh, you need to lose weight. I can't even imagine. That would be really distressing for me. And so I can imagine it's probably distressing for you and if anyone else is experiencing things like that. So I presume with your mum that you want to have a relationship with her. You don't want to just cut her off. It sounds like, you talk to her on the phone. I mean, there is the option. You don't have to talk to your mum, by the way. If you're like, actually, you know what, Victoria, I fucking hate my mum. That's cool, But if you do want to have a relationship with her, it sounds like setting a juicy boundary with your mum would be really helpful. And really having to stick with it. Now, I want to tell you that it is possible for a parent who has been in diet culture for many, many years, who has talked to you in a certain way for many years, to change. It's happened to me, okay? So you might be thinking, my mum will never go for that. But if you use the technique, the jab technique, judge, action, brace, bottom line, and for you, the brace and the bottom line is going to be really big, because your mum is probably going to be like, listen, did you hear about diabetes? Next time you talk. And then you're going to have to say, listen, mum, remember I was talking about how this, I'm doing this thing, and talking about diabetes is not good for my mental health. And you may have to get to your bottom line where you, don't talk to her for a little while. Give yourself a break from her. Don't talk to her for a long while. Whatever that bottom line is for you, it's going to be different for everyone. Now, with your clients, this is a tricky one, right? Now, my hairdresser. So I have a new hairdresser. I've been there twice, and I spoke about the first time that I went there because the hairdresser, she kept referring to me as a woman. And she asked me what I did, and I said, "Oh, I help fat people unlearn fat phobia." And she was like, "Oh, that's amazing, as long as they're healthy." And in that moment, I didn't say anything. I chose not to say anything. I chose not to say anything about the gender thing because I was like, still new being non-binary, and I'm still kind of working out how to stand up for myself and all that type of stuff. With the her saying as long as they're healthy, she didn't expand on that. She just had that one-liner, as long as they're healthy. I didn't want to hear that, but I decided, is this a moment where I'm going to educate her, or is this a moment where I'm going to let it go? And I decided to let it go. Now, if the next appointment she started saying, "Oh, I'm so fat," and blah, 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 I personally would shut that down by saying, "Oh, actually, I might educate her and say, oh, actually, blah, 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 this is not true." Or I might just change the subject. So what I'm thinking is, for your clients, 200 of them, maybe let's say 10 of them you're really close to. Those 10 that you're really close to and would actually consider friends, those are the people that you probably want to say, "Hey, listen, I know, because they'll say, what's going on with your life?" And you can say, "Actually, I've noticed this and I'm doing this. And so I'm not talking about dieting and anything like that again. Would you mind helping with the process?" And hopefully if you're like, I don't know, friendly with the client, they'll be like, "Cool, this is what's going on now. This is the change that we're seeing in my hairdresser, and I think it's really cool." Or they can say, "Fuck that. I want to go to the hairdressers and talk about how unattractive and fat I am, even though I'm straight-sized." Maybe they're not the best clients for you. And the rest of your clients are maybe, newer people or people that you're not friendly with. And in those situations, I would come up with different tactics to either, if they bring up weight stuff, change the subject. Just be like, "Oh my God, did you see that new film in the cinema? Oh, did you see what happened on EastEnders last night? Oh, do. That's the EastEnders closing theme, by the way, if people don't know." Or you can be a total badass rock star and, well, I didn't say badass rock star. You could begin to move your business as in the clients that you see, even if you're working for someone else, into being a body positive business, and be like, have a little sticker on your workstation that says, "All bodies are cool," or "Being fat is great." And then when someone says, "Oh my God, I've tried this new diet," you can say, "Oh, did you see that sticker? Yeah, actually, I'm transitioning into being a body positive hairdresser. Do you know anything about body positivity?" And they'll say, "Oh, yeah, what is it? What is it?" And then doing that. I think long term, something like that is probably going to be the best for your mental health, right? Because like you say, 200 clients talking about it, and your boss, and you say you think it's hurting your mental health. I think, long term. So I'm not saying tomorrow go out and do that, because that might be really big and scary. But maybe in the next 2 years or 5 years, that's the transition where you begin to talk about this type of stuff. Because, what would you do if a client started saying other inappropriate things that you feel more confident about that it's deeply inappropriate? Say if someone sat in your chair and started spouting racist shit and started saying, "Hey, do you want to join my neo-Nazi group?" You would probably not smile and nod and be polite. You'd probably be like, what the fuck, right? Because it's fucked up. It's, it's bad. It's not cool. It's, and so right now you're still unlearning fat phobia, and so you might still be like, "Well, they've got a point, or I'm not so sure what to say." But getting to the point where people, if they talk like that to you about fatness or dieting, it just be a boundary of yours where, "Oh, in this salon we actually don't talk about dieting because we're a body positive salon." What does that mean? Oh, it means that la 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 la. We think that it's cool to be fat or whatever. And like I say, that might be something that's, way, 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 way down the road. But it sounds like protecting your mental health in whatever way you can. And it could be that you don't have any conversations, and what you do instead is you go home after seeing all these clients and you just go and do a ton of work on how you're feeling about the conversations you had that day. It could be that you go home and you just do a ton of self-care. It could be you go home and you get a takeout pizza and have a nap, right? But just to put it out there that you deserve to be in a workplace that is free from bigotry, that is free from shaming, because that is not okay. And you say you like your career, you like your career. That it's not okay that you have to consider ending your career because of fat phobia. That's not okay. So yeah, it's complicated, right? I don't think there is any perfect answer to that of how to deal with people, because again, with the jab technique, judge, where is the power with clients? Yeah, the power, they're paying you. If you had, a wait list of so many different clients that wanted to get with you, the power is probably more in your hands. If you're a new hairdresser and you've got, not that many clients and you're struggling to fill your books, the power is probably in their hands. But it sounds like, I don't know, 200 clients sounds like a lot to me. I don't know. I don't know though, but that sounds like a lot to me. And so what if you did lose some clients because you said, hey, we don't talk about diet stuff in this salon. I mean, if you have that wiggle room to get rid of the worst offenders, that's an option too, maybe. I don't know. So let me just wrap up the main theme of today, which is weight loss a mindset issue? The belief that I was fat because there was something wrong with my brain was so deeply ingrained in me because I was so into the self-help world, and the self-help world told me that weight was a manifestation on your body of shit that was going on in your brain. And if you had your shit figured out, you would be thin. So I thought I would go to therapy and quote unquote fix my brain. And once I fixed my brain, I would become thin. And the reason why I craved certain foods or ate certain foods is because I had a personality flaw. I was greedy and I was out of control. In case you don't know, you cannot think your way thin. So many people believe that you can, but you can't. And so that's why we have the rise of all these new psychology-based diets, which is just a diet, but they use buzzwords in marketing to appeal to the people who think that fatness is a manifestation of having unresolved trauma or thoughts like that, when it isn't. There's many reasons why someone is fat. And all of these diets that are targeting people who think that psychology is going to make them thin and quote unquote fixing their brain is going to make them thin. It's just another way to diet companies to make money, because people are getting wise to the idea that plain old dieting doesn't work. And so they're jazzing it up and saying, this is not a diet, this is psychology. This is all about your feelings. And then you log in and turns out it's a diet. It's a very low calorie diet. So people are fat for many different reasons, and none of them are the fault of the fat person. And it's not a mindset issue as to why we can't lose weight. We can't lose weight because our bodies are doing numerous magical things to keep us at a weight that it's happy with, that it's, a weight that it's settled at. And so it's nothing to do with our mindset. It's everything to do with our glorious bodies keeping us safe. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed our episode today. 100! Episode 100. So pleased that you're hanging out with me for all of these episodes. I'm going to go and walk Dougie, take him to the dog park, go and see all the little doggies. So last time I was at the dog park, a dog weed on a man's leg because he thought that the man was a tree because he was wearing brown trousers. And I said, dog, I understand. I felt terrible for the owner. I would be mortified if Dougie did that. I'd be like going and like, I don't know, trying to clean their trousers. Like, what would you do in that situation? What if a dog pissed on you? Like, if a dog pissed on me, I'd be like, listen, this is a bit shit, but you know, what can you do? We're at a dog park. But I would, you know, if Dougal did that to someone else, I'd feel awful. So anyway, I'm going to go take Dougie to the dog park, and my friend Sam has made me some authentic British curry sauce. In England, you get it from the chip shop, curry sauce. And so I'm going to go and try and find some chips. When I say chips, I mean fries for North Americans. But here's the problem. My friend Sam, who is Scottish actually, he even called the Potato Foundation or something of Canada to find out why the fuck the potatoes are so shit here and where are all the British chip shops. And apparently in the UK we use Maris Piper. That's the type of potato. And Maris Piper is very starchy and has very little sugar content, which makes it the chip that we're used to. And they don't make that in Canada. They probably do in like, you know, some random farmer here or there. But in Canada, you go to the store, at least, you know, in mine and Sam's experience, and you get a white potato or you get a red potato. And is there a brown potato? What's the brown one called? Something else. Anyway, none of them are Maris Piper. I was thinking, why are my roast potatoes so shit? And the potatoes here do taste so sweet. Like I have baked potato and I'm like, why is it, what's with all this sugar on the baked potato? But it's not. It's just that it's a different breed, a different brand, a different type of potato. So anyway, I'm not going to go out and find some Maris Piper. I've been trying to see if I can find some seeds on somewhere so I can give Sam some seeds for Christmas and he can grow us some potatoes and we can have some nice curry sauce with some potatoes. But yeah, and there's British chippies in Vancouver. I've been looking at the pictures. They are not British fish and chips at all. They're just fucking, it makes me mad. It makes me mad a bit. And especially if they're not run by British people and they're like authentic British chips, fish and chips. And then you go in and they're all wearing tartan kilts and you're like, what? Why? You realize that's what? And then it's like McDonald's fries, you know, string fries. And you're like, no. N-O. I'm not down with this. Tell you another thing I'm not down with. Wet stuffing. You know how you have on Sunday dinner? Your stuffing. North Americans, they leave it wet. Like it's like a damp sock or something. Versus putting it in the oven and getting it crunchy. They don't do that. Maybe some. But in my experience, they like a lot of wetness in their Sunday dinners. Whereas I feel like Brits and Irish and Scottish, we want crunchy. We want crunchy roast potatoes, crunchy Yorkshire puddings. You've got some mash on the side, you know, and then you got your stuffing, which is crunchy on the outside and then moist in the middle. Lots of crunch. And then you have your gravy to make it moist. Whereas I feel like with North America, they're like, okay, we're going to have fucking broccoli casserole, wet. Stuffing, that's wet. Cranberry sauce, wet. Mashed potato, wet.
No roast potatoes, no roast parsnips, no Yorkshire puddings, and then the meat. It's all wet. It's all wet. Where's all the crunch? There's no crunch. Where's the crunch? Listen up now. Now, North America, you need to get with it. Get some crunch in your Sunday dinners, okay? Okay? Okay, good. I'm glad we got that sorted. I also watched a video of some American woman trying to make a cup of tea, and it's so fucking funny because she got a kettle and she put like the tea bags in the kettle, or no, the tea loose in the kettle or something. And British people were coaching her through, and it took her like 7 tries to make a cup of tea. And that's another thing here is like a kettle is the most basic thing that you'd have in your kitchen, you know? And here, for a lot of people, it's kind of like, well, I've never seen a kettle. I've ever used a kettle. And I'm like, well, how the fuck do you make tea or coffee? How do you live? How do you boil the kettle to make hot water if you want to like wash the floors? What? Are you boiling a pot on the stove? Anyway, whatever. I don't know why I've gone off on a rant about... I like Canada, okay? I love Canada. And America, I'm scared of America. But, you know, I'm sure I'm joking around, okay? All right, don't send me any hate letters about being like, get out of our country if you don't like wet food. Because British cuisine is shit anyway. It is shit. British cuisine is shit. So... Anyway, I'm going to stop ranting about this stupid shit and go and take Doogie to the dog park. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I'll see you next episode. Bye. Thanks for listening to the episode. And if you feel ready to get serious about this work and want to know when the doors open to Fierce Fatty Academy, which is my signature program where I teach all about how to overcome your fat phobic beliefs and learn to love your fat body, then go to fiercefatty.com/waitlist. Again, that is fiercefatty.com/waitlist to get your name on the waitlist for when Fierce Fatty Academy, my signature program, opens.